What's good, fam? Welcome back to the channel. This is Constant Sports. I'm your host, Constance. Now, the rankings just came out, right? We had some big games happen this weekend, so obviously it's Monday. New AP Top 25 gotta come out. So, the crazy part is South Carolina is officially not number two, and it has been a while since South Carolina has not been the number one or the number two seed, or at least ranked teams there is. So South Carolina dropped two positions. They're sitting at number four. We'll go from the top. UCLA is still sitting, the only remaining undefeated team in NCAA women's basketball. Um, Obviously, they still haven't played USC. They play USC two times before the end of the season. They actually play them here in a few days. So that'll be a good challenge for them. And then they also play USC as their last game of the season. So to see how those two teams battle head to head will really show what that conference has to offer. With obviously having USC and UCLA, two teams in the top 10 is a big deal. It's surprising that they haven't played already. Playing each other so late in the season is a little different, and to especially if you're there with the team that you're playing twice. So we'll see how those games go. Obviously, if USC beats UCLA, that will shake up the APs big time. Um, and it'll shake it up. But UCLA should only drop maybe one position. But with AP, they can be a little weird with a lot of these teams. So I can see UCLA dropping two positions at that point. The number two team is Notre Dame at the number two, ranked number two, which is their highest ranking in a very long time. They're playing amazing basketball. I mean, their front court is amazing. Their back court is amazing. The whole team plays as a unit, but for them to have two amazing guards that are playing well together, they play great when it's only one of them on the floor. But when they're on the floor together, they're very hard to defend. Uh, so to see what Notre Dame does for the rest of the season, I'm looking forward to it. Um, Obviously, they've lost two games already, which is it's fine, right? No, I just said there's only one team that's undefeated. There's only a few teams that only have one loss of the season, so they'll be fine and they'll keep pushing. Um, they don't have a really tough schedule the rest of the go away. They play some games, but they do have they're playing three teams, roughly four, who are ranked. But if you're lower ranked teams, and don't see Notre Dame having an issue with that at all. So the only thing that can hurt Notre Dame is Notre Dame. Um, as long as they keep playing their ball, they will stay the number two team with the possibility of going up to the number one seed. But like I said, the AP is different. They like to do things crazy and they like to shock us all. So could they shock us? Absolutely. Number three team is your Texas Longhorns. Obviously, with them taking down South Carolina yesterday, saw this happening, right? They move up just one position from four to three. Um, they deserve it. They earned it. Um, they battled the top team in the SEC. Uh, they're gonna have another game coming up here in a few days when they go head to head with LSU, who is currently now the top seed in the SEC, um, or at least tied for first. I believe they are. They're tied for first. So if Texas can beat LSU after already beating South Carolina, they have 100% made their way into being in talks big time for the SEC number one seed. Obviously, you have to go through the tournament, the SEC tournaments, right? So to make sure to see who gets those number one seeds. But if Texas can take down LSU and South Carolina, it's going to be hard for someone to explain to the rest of us on how they did not get it. Um, and the same goes for Texas as it does Notre Dame. The only way they will go down is if they lose these games. But the difference is Notre Dame's schedule compared to Texas' schedule is going to be much harder. They're definitely going to have to power through some big teams in the SEC. Number 14 is South Carolina, obviously dropping two positions after losing to Texas, which I saw this coming. I saw them being 4 or 5. I just didn't know how the rankings would come out, how they would shift things, but it pretty much went. They're lined up how I thought that they should be. South Carolina will be ahead of LSU due to the fact that South Carolina beat LSU a couple weeks ago. So where South Carolina is where they should be. Um, I would have been very shocked if they dropped them lower than 4. The only way that would have happened is if they would have did something crazy and swap the LSU and the South Carolina rankings, which they're not doing that. Number 5 team is LSU, right? So LSU is one of those teams that only have one loss on the season, and that loss is to South Carolina. Um, but like I said, LSU is playing Texas in a few days, so that is a big game for LSU. If LSU can take out Texas, then they will jump South Carolina. That will give Texas their third loss of the season, um, and that would be LSU beating a team that beat South Carolina. That's how it should be. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't know. It's we just gonna have to see what they say. Um, and with South Carolina's next game, well, they're going up against another good team, right? So South Carolina's next game will be, well, they're going up against Florida, which should be, they should win. They should win that game. And then their next game after that is UConn. So I'm sure this Florida game, they're going to use it to work on a lot of the things and a lot of the issues that they were having in that Texas game, which wasn't many issues at all. The UConn game, I do see that being a good game, but I also see South Carolina winning that game outright. I will be very shocked if it's a game that's won off of a last second shot, um, or for the teams holding out so that the other team can't get the ball and score. UConn is good, but I don't think that they're on South Carolina's level. But if South Carolina does something weird and shocks us all, they could possibly lose to UConn. Um, and LSU just have to keep playing their ball. If they play the same basketball that they played up against Tennessee, up against Texas, then I believe they will come out with that win. Tennessee and Texas, they play a lot alike. I do believe that Tennessee is a lot more bigger and physical than Texas. So to see how this game ends, will be very interesting and exciting. These are two of the heavyweights of the SEC, and so I would love to see where this game goes. Number 6 team is USC. They are sitting at number 6. They went up a spot. They are playing good. They have fallen off a little bit, but they're still winning their games. So for them to have to play UCLA as their next game is going to be tough on them. Um, Juju she's kind of struggling a little bit, not too much. She's still putting up the points that she needs to put up, so that's good. But she's gonna have to give them everything she got for this next game. Uh, the number 7 team is UConn. So with UConn playing, they lost to Tennessee, and then they played up against Providence, who is in their conference, and they blew them out. It was like 77 to I believe 40. And what they did was what I knew they were going to do. They practiced things that didn't help them in the previous game. They worked more on their full court press, especially if they know that their next big opponent is South Carolina. Your full court press, if you're going to press them, needs to be on point because they will break that press very fast. And they will score all of their points on you until you get out of that press. Number 8 team is another SEC team, which is Connecticut, who is 19-2. They is they played the fewest amount of games for some of the top players in the SEC. Um, they haven't really played any of the heavy hitters, really. I know they are scheduled to play uh, South Carolina is like their last few games is LSU, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Those are three straight games, right? So their next game they're playing right now. So their next game is against Texas. So I'm not sure who did their schedule, but that's not fair, right? So they're playing Ole Miss right now, which seems to be a good game right now. UConn is up at the moment. It's halftime. But for them to go from playing Ole Miss, who is a good team, they defend very well. They put up points. Um, to then playing Texas, having a playing Georgia, then Mizzou, and then going to LSU. Well, they're playing LSU and Tennessee at home in Kentucky. But then they have to follow that up and go and play South Carolina. So that is definitely, I don't think that's a fair schedule. Um, so to see how Kentucky comes out at the end of at the end of this month, uh, it's gonna be interesting. I see them winning a couple of these games. I see them winning today. Um, I don't really see them beating Texas. They'll beat Georgia. They'll beat Mizzou. That LSU game, I have to watch some more Kentucky to see, um, but I do not believe for sure that they probably will not beat Tennessee. Tennessee's sub rotations of pulling five people out at a time is tough on an opponent. It's so tough on an opponent, and they do it so flawlessly. And then South Carolina is South Carolina, right? So we will see how Kentucky fares out if they will be able to stay in the top 10 by the South Carolina game or not. Number 9 team is Ohio State, who's definitely fallen off. They were one of the few teams that was remaining undefeated teams for a while. They stuck it out. They've dropped a position, so they still need to work on a few things. Their core is still there. Um, they just have to settle down and trust each other a little bit more, and they'll be just fine. I see Ohio State making it to the Sweet 16 at the minimum for sure. And we're gonna round it out with the top 10 for now, right? Top 10 is NC State is sitting at 19-4. Who they came up 4 positions. Obviously, with them TCU dropping 2 positions, that helped NC State come up above them. And NC State's like they haven't really had any big wins against big teams. Um, so I'd have to look a little bit deeper to see why it is. I know they beat Duke, who at the time when they played Duke was the number 10 team. But other than that, I don't see very many tough matchups. And obviously they've lost 4 games. So for NC State to be number 10, while TCU, who is 22-3, is number 11. Like I said, the AP is crazy. And I know TCU, obviously they lost a few games, which is okay. You expected them to lose more just because of the team is new. Um, and I mean they lost to Kansas State, who is the number 12 team, and Kansas State isn't bad. Like Kansas State is a very good team. Um, so I see TCU bouncing back and coming back in. Their next games aren't tough at all. They play a couple ranked teams, which is the number 18 team, West Virginia at the moment, and Baylor, who is sitting at number 25. So I see TCU winning out for the rest of the year. Like I said, anything can happen. And that's the best part about women's basketball in the game. Like, the talent across the sport is spreading out a lot more than what it used to do back in the day, and I am here for it and I love it, and I can't wait to keep watching it. So thank you guys for supporting me. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace, love, happiness.